Are there disadvantages to a deferred sales trust? The answer is yes. Hi, I'm Brett Swartz, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions, where we help you escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax using a deferred sales trust on sale of highly appreciated businesses, real estate, cryptocurrency, so you can create and preserve more wealth and or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. So with anything that you look at, you want to look at the pros and cons for every single strategy or structure or investment that you're going to be going into. And there's definitely pros and cons to the deferred sales trust. And so today's video, we're going to cover some of the disadvantages. So the number one disadvantage that we found for the deferred sales trust is complexity, right? There's really few tax referral programs that are simple to set up in general. The deferred sales trust can be somewhat more challenging to launch and manage than maybe something that you're more familiar with, like an IRA or a 401k or a 1031 exchange. And as a part of that, it takes a group of professionals to execute this. And so the fees are also higher. It's a highly specialized type of trust that it's not just setting up one time like a living trust, but sometimes we get confused with people say, well, I have a living trust. Don't I already have this set up? No, that doesn't have to do with this type of trust. It's a particular business trust that takes a third party unrelated trustee. That's part of our role here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions to execute this. And so it is more complex. And for some people, especially who meet us last minute and aren't maybe educated on the deferred sales trust and have their trusted professionals, vet us and go through the structure, it can be overwhelming because they're selling their property or their business that they've worked for 10, 20, 30 years for millions of dollars. And all of a sudden, oh my goodness, this seems complex. This is new. It's different. The biggest part of the complexity that I've found has to do with most of us are used to being owners, owner of the business, of the real estate, of the cryptocurrency, of the stock, meaning we have an ownership hat on and we see everything through an ownership lens rather than being a lender, right? Which is different, which is a bank. And so the biggest change is changing that characteristic of being an owner to a lender and know that you don't own the trust. The trust owes you the money. And so you are a lender, you're a secured lender, and you have all the rights and protections of a lender. And in fact, you make the argument that lenders have stronger protections than even owners do. And but it's different, right? You haven't rode that bike before, so it can feel a little bit wobbly until you're riding it. But think of it like a bank that had loaned you funds on your house, right? Are they concerned that if you don't make the payment that they can't foreclose and take the asset back? No. Are they concerned that you're not going to have fire insurance? No, that's part of their stipulation to get fire insurance to make sure their asset is also protected too should a fire happen. And so these are all the rights and protections that are a part of a traditional lender, and that's what you're becoming. But for a lot of people, that can be a little bit complex, so we have to walk them through that. And also, that is part of the biggest thing with the complexity. It's just something that's new. Okay, number two, what's the another disadvantage for the deferred sales trust? Well, there is potential for the actual mismanagement of the trust, right? If you want to make sure that you're working with those who have done these transactions, have the track record, and are working with the creators of the structure, and you want to make sure that everything is in accordance to the guidelines that have been set forth per the IRS Section 453 for one of them, Section IRC 72 for the Deferred Sales Trust Plus. If you're looking at that for estate tax challenges, and the key here is that the trustee must be third party unrelated. That's again part of our role here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. And it's not declared a sham trust, or it's not declared that you have what's called constructive receipt or what's called unilateral control, meaning an owner and making all of the decisions without any pushback or any kind of group by committee approval. And that's part of what we do here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. By the way, it's kind of like an IRA or 401k or 1031 exchange company. It's the same thing. In order to get that tax deferral, there's got to be a third party that's not related to you that's helping you to execute that. So you want to make sure that you're not mismanaging it and it's being followed by all the guidelines, and you're working with trusted advisors and professionals to execute this. Okay. All right, so that's number two disadvantage. Number three, some qualified intermediaries will not release the funds, and these are having to do with 1031 exchanges. Those looking to complete a 1031 exchange have to realize that some qualified intermediaries either don't know about the deferred sales trust, or don't want to know about it, and/or know about it but don't want you to be using it because they're in the business of being a 1031 exchange company, keeping you in that that 1031 exchange buying and selling so that they make money there. Whereas the deferred sales trust is an alternative, is a rescue for a 1031 exchange, but not all of them are familiar with it, right? And so some of them, I think the majority of them, they don't cooperate because they're just not familiar with it, right? And they either won't sign the NDAs, or they don't want to go and open up that window. It's kind of like going to a Wells Fargo, and if you ever try to go to these big banks or Bank of America or whoever, and you ask them to do something that's a little bit outside the box, and they just say no, it's not in their business plan, it's not in their thing, it's not, they're not there to really to focus on that. But you go to maybe the more, smaller credit unions or some of the smaller local banks, and they're much more entrepreneurial, much more flexible. And so by the way, we do work with qualified intermediaries. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that, and who accommodate, who have signed the NDAs, who know what we're doing. But just realize that some of them will not release the funds, and they will not work with the deferred sales trust. Okay, that's the number 3 disadvantage. Number 4, if you're looking to use the deferred sales trust as a backup strategy in case you're unable to identify a property, you want to again make sure the qualified intermediary will work with you. But the other part of it too is they're going to have to hold back some withholdings in some states. Okay, and so if you're at a qualified intermediary, some states like California have a withholding amount, which we always make sure to withhold. So that could be a disadvantage versus just closing at close of escrow, so you don't have to hold that back. What's that amount? It's typically about 3 1/3%. So realize that can be a disadvantage if you're using a qualified intermediary. Also remember, the 1031 exchanges only work for investment real estate. So it doesn't work for business sales or cryptocurrency or primary homes, carried interest, captive insurance, NFTs, artwork, whereas the deferred sales trust works for all of those. So the 1031 exchange is kind of just that niche for the investment property. Also realize that it's tax deferred. It's not tax eliminated, right? One of the advantages of the opportunity zone is if you put the funds in there, and if you wait for the 10 years, you can get basically tax-free money on if you follow the rules and do everything. They have some deferral up front. You got to pay it back in a couple of years, but then the new investment kind of can grow tax free, which is pretty remarkable, right? Whereas the deferred sales trust, it is definitely just deferring the tax. Okay, so that's a disadvantage. Unless you're using what's called the Deferred Sales Trust Plus, then we can eliminate the estate tax because we're moving the funds outside the taxable estate. It's different than IRC 453. It's IRC 72. I just made an actual video on this. You can search it right now. Deferred Sales Trust Plus. It's for ultra high net worth individuals who are struggling with the 40% estate tax. Okay. The next disadvantage, and the last one we'll cover here, is not all depreciation recapture taxes are deferred. Okay. So you want to make sure that if it's straight line versus accelerated depreciation, that you're working with your CPA to properly document all of that. And certain accelerated depreciation methods above me on the straight line are not tax deferrable, which also leads to something that's called mortgage over basis or debt over basis. Okay. And so if you have debt in excess of your basis, that's also not tax deferrable, okay, with the deferred sales trust. Now, we have some ways to solve that, and I'll be making a video on that here on mortgage over basis and ways to solve that. But just briefly, you're going to use what's called a Delaware statutory trust if it's an investment real estate, or Delaware 1031 to do what's called a partial zero coupon, typically high debt deals that replace the debt over basis and then you can put the rest of it into the deferred sales trust. So look for that video that's dropping here right away to learn more about that. If it's something else that's not 1031 related, then you're going to have to either pay down the debt to the basis, or you're just going to have to pay the tax on that. Okay. So just realize that when you do these refinances or you're leveraging against certain assets, if it's above and beyond your basis, since it's tax-free on the refinance, it gets recaptured or actually taxable upon the exit. So this is why you want to be doing the planning and preparation. So that is one of the disadvantages of the deferred sales trust. We cannot defer tax or debt over basis. Okay. So those are just a few. Hopefully you guys are getting this, that there's not, a one size fits all solution for tax deferral. And you might consider a 1031 exchange, a Delaware statutory trust, an opportunity zone, a deferred sales trust, We do believe, though, that the number one enemy is not having a plan and not working with professionals to help you map it out and guide you down the process. We would love the opportunity to be that guide for you, and or if you're a professional who help ultra high net worth clients, to help you help them exit very well and smart. In fact, we have a book coming out to that end to help you. It's called Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy, and it's the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or your clients. We have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. We have amazing financial advisors, commercial real estate operators, entrepreneurs that are in this book that are sharing their thoughts on exiting and building businesses and creating wealth. And so pick up that up on Amazon. And hey, we so appreciate you watching this video or listening to this podcast. If we could be of any service to you, would love to connect with you. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get your deferred sales trust going. You can download our free ebook. And we also have our mastermind. It's every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, where you can come on live with myself and my team as we discuss the deferred sales trust close of the week, as we deep dive into scenarios for clients that are considering it, all at no cost. You can come on and check that out. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Appreciate you out there. Please rate, review, subscribe, and we'll